Good morning, everyone. Good morning. How's everyone today? Oh my goodness, my hair just so needs a cut. Look at that. Anyway, never mind. Good morning, everyone. It is. I don't know, I was laughing at myself earlier on. I was in the loo laughing because I thought every time I come on, and I always just talk about the weather. The first thing I do, without fail, is talk about the weather. How terribly British is that? So. Yeah, but obviously this morning it is quite extreme out there, so I feel quite justified in talking about the weather. It's really frosty. It's what they call a hoarfrost, isn't it, this morning? Good morning, Sophie, my beautiful girl. How are you? There's my little darling. She is a darling as well. So I'm just going to see if some more people... Oh, God, I've got myself twice here. No one needs that. So can you hear me all right, Soph? Yeah? You're not saying you can't, so I'm guessing you can. So yeah, I had myself twice because I've got you on my camera on my phone, and then I watch myself. Not that I'm vain, but I watch the computer so I can see the comments come up, because otherwise on the screen on the phone there's not a lot. So yes, I just had to turn myself down then. Yes, I am good, thank you, sweetheart. Yes, I'm good. So you're good? You're a busy day ahead? Well, yeah, so I've got the look, my hair, random hair. So vain, aren't we? So I've got a chilled day planned. I'm doing this, and then at some point I've got a mid-Sabbath moot with beautiful Jenny from Kent Goddess Group. So yeah, so that's what I'm doing today. So today I was just going to talk to you about the Cailleach. That's how you pronounce it, in case you've been wondering all week. Cailleach. And it's rather a good name for rolling your tongue around. Cailleach. It sounds quite vicious, doesn't it? And she tends to get a bad press. She tends to be deemed as, you know, various things. And I just thought I would look into her a bit more this week, because I really enjoyed her. And this is kind of like the last month or so that she is around, and then she changes at Imbolc, which is the 1st of February. Those of you of a pagan persuasion will know. So, and she's I think she's always had a really awful press, and it reminded me of the song "Sympathy for the Devil" by the Rolling Stones, because I just thought, what if she was nice? What if she wasn't as awful and fearsome, and she was just a goddess doing her business? You know, you wake up one day, you find out you're a goddess. You know, you can't just have a life doing what you want to do. You've got certain things to do. So it made me look into her. So anyway, we'll make a start. And I found this poem. It's on a page called All Poetry. I'll put the notes up later on. We've got all the references in it. And it's by a lady called Amy, and she goes by the moniker AWS Amy. I couldn't find any more, so if anybody knows any different, I'm more than happy to credit her, but I'll put the thing up from where I found her. So this is called Cailleach. Cailleach, mother of mountains, ancient crone of wisdom. Winter winds howl, snow flurries swirl. The Cailleach has returned. She runs through the hills like thunder in a flurry of white vengeance, staking her claim on the barren lands. Her reign is nearing its end. With the returning of the sun, on the eve of bride, youth has returned to her, a maiden of white splendour. Goddess of winter, blades of ice lay at her side. Winter brings spring, and in death I am endlessly renewed. And I really like that, because again, she sounds really vicious and nasty, but obviously there is the suggestion of the renewal of spring, which we'll come to in a bit. But she's still, it talks about vengeance, and she doesn't sound very nice, does she? But I like that poem. It's short and sweet. So for the Cailleach. So for those of you that don't know, or perhaps haven't been able to catch up this week, she is one of the Celtic personifications of the crone. She is an ancient goddess, as old as time itself, you know, as old as the hills. Morning, Lonnie. Yeah, I love the crone too. The Cailleach should be for you, my lovely. So she's as old as time itself, and she's craggy and she's harsh, and I feel she's got a really bad press. I just said, Lonnie, that made me think of Sympathy for the Devil when I was researching the crone and writing for today, because that kind of, you know, she's got this job, you know, she's got to do it. I know the Rolling Stones aren't your thing, David Bowie is, but nonetheless, I know you appreciate your music. So she's also a creating deity. She makes and changes the landscape. So all this destruction and chaos that she wreaks is actually... Did anybody just see that orb go past? That was really bizarre. I'm going to rewatch that later on. There was an orb, went from here over there. How bizarre. So she changes the landscape, and that's what she does. And legend has it that this is how Scotland was made, when she walked across the land while dropping rocks and peat from the basket or her apron, depending on what stories you look at. So she's also one of the oldest and most powerful of mythological beings, and she's associated with Ireland. The name Cailleach is it's definitely Celtic. There's debate whether it's Irish or whether it's Scottish. There's always debate as to what it is. Who is it with me, Mum? I don't know. Perhaps it's the Cailleach. I don't know. I don't know, but I feel warm and cosy in here, so whoever it is, it's lovely. And she's also part of the great goddess trinity, so the old traditional trinity of Mother, Maiden and Crone, alongside younger incarnations as the Maiden. We know that she's associated with Bride or Breed, Bridie, however people call her, and the Mother identity, she has that because there's talk of her having husbands and children. There's another one going that way. I'm really going to enjoy watching this back. How bizarre. Anyway, so some people say she's the second side to Winter. And the other half of Bridget, Bridie, and obviously Bridie, Breed, Brigid is pagan goddess, deity. But she's been canonised, and Christ, you saw that one, so she's been canonised by the church over the years and became Saint Bridget. That's fluff. That one then was fluff, because it's off maybe it's off this thing. I'll have to have a look. But she's an extremely powerful Irish goddess, and there's lots of shrines to her. And there are some shrines over here. So she's the goddess of winter. Everybody knows her as the goddess of winter. And in that role, she's called Cailleach Beara. And it's quite a hard name, isn't it? It's not something beautiful and, you know, like, for example, there's a spring goddess called Flora, you know, and you can tell by the names, you know, you've got Hera and Juno, and, you know, but you get harsher names like Cailleach Beara and the Morrigan. You know that they're going to mean business, these goddesses. So she's also, she's known as the Hag of Beara. And Cailleach being the Gaelic word for hag or crone. So she's known as this hag, this ogre, this giantess, this crone. And as per usual, older women, that's tea, you can see rising there, that's nothing exciting. As usual, the older women are, you know, reviled, which mercifully is changing. She's also the mother of the gods and the goddesses. And the fact that she's concerned with destruction and creation at the same time put me in mind of the Greek goddesses. For that, I don't know, and the Greek creation story, which is it's Chaos and Nyx, isn't it? Nyx is Ninka. I'm sure it's Chaos and Nyx, and they were the grandparents. I mean, they ate each other, and they ate their children, and their children ate their children, and it all and then they all rolled out of someone's belly. I'm not up on there. It's a shame Jen's not here, because she would know her Greek goddesses much better, because she follows a Hellenic tradition. But it put me in mind of this, of the chaos and the destruction that is wreaked. So she's also a goddess of the weather. You know, understandably, all the storms and thunderstorms and snowstorms and the wind and the wailing wind, all the awful winter weather. She's the goddess of the weather. She's at her command. she can make that happen. She can, if you upset her, she can wreak havoc on your land. She's also the leader of hungry packs of wolves in winter, and that's predatory. That sounds harsh and fierce, and we know that a she-wolf, as I like wolves, and the idea of a she-wolf is very protective. And although she's fierce and she means business, the old she-wolf, she's protecting those she loves, her cubs, her partner. And yeah, I identify with the she-wolf. So, and it's interesting that the Clarissa Estes Pinky, oh, the Women Who Run with the Wolves, Clarissa, oh, she's going to come back and haunt me. Oh, I can't think, Pincolas Estes, I think. Yeah, put me on the spot. Any other time I'd know what it was called. That's about wolves. So she can walk over the mountain peaks. She's huge. She's a massive, all-encompassing, all-seeing being. It's interesting that that idea came through before Christianity too. And she's the old woman, the hag, the witch. And Cailleach is also said to mean the veiled one, which is sometimes why she's referred to as the nun. The nun of... Oh, my computer's just turned off. That's very strange. She's referred to as the nun, which I shall come to later on. Let me put that on because then I can see if people are commenting. That's cool. So she can walk over the mountain. She controls the rivers and streams. This idea of having that kind of power is definitely something that is, you know, huge and godlike in the Christian sense of the word. So she's mainly prevalent in Ireland, Scotland, and the Isle of Man, Manx, Gaelic history. At the time of the dark moon's a good time. Yeah, it is, Lonnie. That's what I thought. I thought, well, she's definitely for this time of year. And although she exists in various creatrix archetypes and the ancient mother of incarnations worldwide, and it's, if you look in whatever culture you look at, there is always a creatrix mother. There's always a huge there's always, sorry, I lost my train of thought then. I'm trying to sort my blooming computer out. Oh god, and I'm talking, there's two of me. Nobody needs two of me. So whichever culture you look at, there is always this huge creatrix figure. And I think it's fascinating that in cultures that were supposedly separate throughout the world, they come up with some very similar ideas about how the world was created, and the goddesses or the gods, the deities, whatever you've got in whatever country, they have similar attributes. They have similar powers, and I can't see that that's coincidence. I'm not a huge conspiracy theorist, but I really don't think that that's coincidence. So to look at her, I mean, you've seen some of the pictures this week, and I chose pictures that were perhaps more friendly because I really felt for her. I really felt for someone with a bad press. But she's always old, and as is the crown, you'd expect that. But she's often wrinkled, which again you'd expect. But she's always ugly. And if you look around, there's a beauty in the lines and the creases of old people, and you know, they've got such smooth skin. And she's always depicted as this hag. And interestingly, she's usually got a startlingly blue skin. There's a lovely film, and it's a puppet, and that's called a Cailleach Bearer, which I can put the link up for that afterwards. And she's like this kind of misshapen thing like this, but she's got bright blue skin, and she's always got terrible teeth. Always got terrible teeth. They're often red and black, and you just wonder why they're red. Has she been eating live things? Has she been eating the earth? And that's why that's one of the suggestions of why she always wears a veil, to hide her face from the world, so not to scare us. And sometimes, this is another interesting thing, she only has one eye. Now, apparently sometimes it's here, like where your third eye is supposed to be, but other times she's like this, and I think, well, that's really like Odin. So again, there's another, how interesting it is that should happen here. This is before the Vikings as well, just before the Viking raiders landed here. So it's not something they brought over. And also, she's got, one of her other attributes is that she has this massive hammer that she creates things with, and she can command thunderstorms. Now, who does that remind you of? Obviously, that is a very huge similarity to Thor, another of the Norse gods. And that's just amazing. That's when I say, you know, the similarities between the different cultures, although they've at this point, presumably, as far as we know historically, not met, is astounding. So in Ireland and Scotland especially, there are places devoted to her. Countless stories about how they got there. Yeah, Thor safe, exactly. Her dad's probably in the other room going, Thor. So one of the places she's said to live is Ben Nevis in Scotland, which is, for those of you who perhaps aren't watching from the UK, that's Scotland's highest mountain. I think it's UK's highest mountain. Correct me if I'm wrong, somebody. That's supposed to be her seat. She created that. That gives an idea of how big she is, or how much power was associated with her, and this giantess status that she's got. I mean, to have Ben Nevis as your seat, as your to sit and rest from your work, that's a pretty big mountain. It's not just a small hill. You know, she's not just a big girl. She's a massive, massive giantess. And there's also a place, now, for anybody who's Scottish, or anybody who knows better than me, please apologise. I apologise now for my Gaelic pronunciation for this, and for anybody Irish. There's also Tyne Botock, which is, it's in Glen Cailleach, near the bridge of Orkney in Perthshire, and it's a small stone-built house structure. So it's got the sides and the top, and it's open on one side to the elements. An entrance to the east, apparently. Roughly roofed with stone slabs, and there are figures in stone that are sort of human shapes. Now, she's supposed to have created this during a time when she sheltered with some families there from the Glen. Whatever that, you know, however true that is or isn't, I mean, it's interesting. But they are connected to a local fertility legend, and in Beltane, which is the 1st of May, the local people, the local would have been the clansman at some time, would have been, and gamekeeper, and I think it's probably still the gamekeeper does it. They bring this family out to sit in the sun, and as it comes to Samhain, which is Halloween, 6 months later, and the start of the winter perhaps, they put them back in to shelter for the winter, and that helps with the fertility in the air and the prosperity of the land. So that's a lovely little story. Now, the Cailleach myth is also associated closely with the Countess of Kerry and Cork in Ireland, and legend has it that the Cailleach bearer was the chief goddess of the I can't even pronounce this, the people of Kerry, the Corcu du I don't know, I can't pronounce that, that's one I didn't look up. So a clan from Kerry, and the Hag's Head on the cliffs at the county, the cliffs of Maha in County Clare, which is famous cliffs. It's near the Giant's Causeway, that, because I know myself and Mark were looking at that. So the Hag's Head there is supposed to resemble her features. And Slieve na Cailleach, the Hag's Mountain in County Meath, and that's the site of lots of megalithic tombs. And she also managed to get over the border. In Yorkshire, there's Rudston's Church. There's it's really tall, it's 20-something feet, this huge megalith, and it's said to be the petrified form of the Cailleach. And when her time runs out in spring, she would hide her staff under a holly bush and turn into this stone till the winter comes again. So, but it's interesting that it's not as far up as I thought it might be. When I first heard about it, I thought, oh, it's probably just over the borders, but it's not. It's in the East Riding of Yorkshire. But she is well documented and ancient as being a deity or a myth. So then I found this lovely poem. Now this is a more modern creation of the poem, and it's called The Lament of the Hag, or in brackets, or Nun of Bear, Cailleach. So when I said earlier on about the veils, that's connected to nuns as well. So it's thought to be an Irish 10th century verse, by the same name. I am the Hag of Bear, an ever new smock I used to wear. Today, such is my mean estate, I wear not even a cast-off smock. The maidens rejoice when May Day comes to them. For me, sorrow is my meter. I am wretched. I am an old hag. Amen. Woe is me. Every acorn has to drop, after feasting by shining candles, to be in the gloom of a prayer house. I had my day with kings, drinking mead and wine. Today I drink whey water among shrivelled old hags. The flood wave and the second ebb tide, they have all reached me, so that I know them well. There is scarce a little place today that I can recognise. What was on flood is all on ebb. So if you, I'll put the link up later on, but that is from cailleachsherbarium.com, and that's a copy, that is a more modern version, I say, of this Lament of the Hag of Bear. So that's the things I found, and I've got this beautiful, I don't know if you can see that. This is the lovely Wendy Andrews art, and this is my beautiful little Wheel of the Year. I'll just read this out to you. This is for winter solstice, but this covers Cailleach. Fill me now as mother of air. Mine are the limitless skies and endless stars. I am bird woman. I lift your imagination and carry it on soft feathered currents to other worlds. I am bone woman. I am the stillness between death and rebirth. I am the stillness between breathing out and breathing in. Rest in that pause. Feel my presence. I am peace. So that's lovely. And I love this because it moves around. It moves around all over the place. So I love that. So, and then as my final offering for you today, I have a short story. It's only about 10 minutes, so you won't die of boredom, I promise you. And it's called The Wind Wailer. And yeah, you'll have to excuse me for this. Let me have a slurp of tea. So The Wind Wailer. I've got to read it. There's no way I could remember this and read it out. I am Cailleach. Cailleach bearer. Cailleach bear. Bone woman. Stone woman. Goddess of winter. The wild wolf woman. They call me hag. Crone. Witch. Ogre. Giantess. Yeah. I am she of many names. I laugh at these names now, as I whistle and wail my path across the land, doing my work, wind wailing through the darkness of winter. They say I am old, and that I am ancient. It is true, for I am as old as time itself. Many millennia ago, I helped create this land, and my mysteries have been spun into stories and tales over these lands since those who first dwelt here learnt to talk. My stories have been lost in the mists of time, in all but a few places now, and in those myths and poems that remain, I am oft reviled and hated and feared. But once, I, who am now as old as the world, was young and fresh-faced, beautiful and shining. I was a maiden in 7 lifetimes. In each of those lifetimes, I loved and was loved. My dwellings may now be long emptied and discarded, but I am loved and remembered. In one incarnation, millions of moons since, we travelled to Tyne Botock, high up in the forsaken glens in the land of the Scots. Ancient men and women of the glen loved me then too. One winter's night, I sought shelter with my man and my child, and they took us in with hearts as warm as the fire of their hearths. So I fashioned stones at a shelter shrine, and moulded stones in our likeness. At Beltane, the Glen's men and women release us from this crude house for a joyful summer amongst the fragrant purple heather. And at Samhain, they carefully restore us back into the shelter to keep us from the winds that wail and whistle down the mountains and the bitter freezing ice of the dark winter months. In gratitude, I watch over their land, and the valleys are fertile and prosperous. The winds and ice blow over them, but the winds wail less fiercely there. Before that lifetime even, I created the lands of Elba, Air and Manx. Have you not read of this? I was all-seeing and all-knowing queen of my realm, striding this way and that way, jumping over the waters that part the lands. For I made great Ben Nevis with my vast fearsome hammer as a seat to rest on in my labours. But the land slept and slept on beneath my icy cloak. And as I watched from my lonely eyrie, and I saw all of life beneath me was still and frozen, then I was sad and forlorn. Yes, me, the harsh, cruel hag of winter. Yeah, I was sad. Great tears sprang from my eyes, and as I wept and wailed, great floods fell across the land, and the rivers and springs were brought into being where they landed. In my joy, I jumped from my great seat, and all the rocks fell from my apron and made the hills and mountains, and in delight and wonder at this new landscape I had made, I cleaved the valleys and gorges with my hammer, for I am creator too. And bountiful mother. Did you know that? Some knew me as Mother Earth, as she who creates, as Gaia and the Great Mother. From me sprang the spirits and the she, the fairy folk of the emerald land of air. I am Mother Goddess to all goddesses. My children, you do know that you're all descended from me and the men I have loved. Oh, the men I have loved in all the lands. The old man of Botac, Manannan MacLear, and others whose names even I forget now. Ah, MacNannan, how I waited in vain for you to return to me, my love. I have known sorrow too. Deep, deep sorrow, that etched so deeply in my face that my wailing and the wind carved into the rocks themselves at Colour Bay, taking the shape of my graving visage for all eternity. I am not indifferent to suffering, as some of you would have me believe. Gentler tongues name me Queen of Winter, as Carlin, the Queen of Witches, and in the remote coasts of Alba, amongst the hardy fisher folk, I am Gentle Annie, she who brings the winter storms and gales, and those who dwell in my sacred glens and forests know me with fondness as Lady of the Beasts. The animals of these blessed realms love me too. The deer and the reindeer are protected by me from the greed of mankind, and many is the storm I have whipped up in fury, wild and whirling snowstorms descending on greedy hunters who sought to take more than was their need. But the folk seeking what is fair have nothing to fear. I am ancient goddess of this land. I command the wolves too, and have led hungry packs to their quarry, their predatory howls echoing on the wind as I wail beside them. As the months of winter draw close, just afore Samhain, my ancient servants of time immemorial stir and whisper their spells over the great whirlpool of Corryvreckan, the cauldron of the Plaid. 8 wild and powerful goddesses, daughters and others of my kind, my Cailleach I call them, awaken from their slumber deep below the seat of Ben Nevis, and toil a while with me as we wash and prepare my great white plaid of winter in its watery depth. And if you listen, in the carried shrieks of the wind, you will hear our spells and our voices. As midwinter draws closer, I don my sparkling clean plaid and wander through the realms I command. The once green fields and forests are slowly dying back into their yearly decline of death, waiting for the rebirth of the coming year. As my great plaid cloak of white touches their shriveled leaves and branches, it frosts and freezes them into icy stillness and wintry splendour. Amongst this icy chill and the endings, there is hope and there is beauty. Into the infant new year I continue to walk the earth, my cloak of winter still commanding frost and ice wherever it touches the land. But as the year grows steadily stronger, slowly, teasingly, I release my icy grip a little and allow the first signs of spring to trail from my great footsteps. I have a magic of my own, but few can see it now. Every year without fail, I complete my cycle, and not unlike the Merlin, I grow younger, until at Cailleach Eve I undertake my final labour as Cailleach, and I visit the hidden well of youth, keeping vigil until sunrise, when I drink the waters of revival, and then the goddess of spring is born again. So as you jolt awake with the wind battering your home, hissing and wailing down your chimney, whistling through the nooks and crannies of your roofs, your windows or your doors, hear me and know that I am just going about my work, settling the land to sleep for long dark nights, and all is as it should be. What looks like destruction is the cycle of rebirth and renewal, as my freezing fingers pluck away at the foliage, and the land transforms under my fearsome touch to a cruel and frozen realm. Just pull up your covers and rest deeply, knowing that this always comes before fresh growth, renewal, before the green shoots and the brave budding petals of Cailleach. Soon I will be but a distant memory. As you embrace spring, I shall be consigned to the harshness of winter past, but allow yourself a quiet minute to remember that each year I come to my death and to my rebirth. Each year I change my name. I am reborn. I am bride, breed, Brigit, Brigide, Bridie, St. Bridget. I am she of many names, and I am she of many mysteries. So there you go. That's my little offering for the day. So I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope you have a lovely, lovely day. And we've got beautiful, we've got a mist out there as well. It really is lovely. I'll put all the links up for all the different sources I used for that. So lovely to catch up with you, and stay safe. And I don't know what we're looking at next week, and I've got a guest next week and I can't remember who it is because I'm not very organised at the moment. But anyway, take care. Lovely to speak to you. Stay safe. Bye.